Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping right into, well, a really pivotal decade. Or your
Right. It's
30s.
often where things really take off, financially speaking.
Exactly. You're hitting your stride, maybe careers are taking off, paychecks are finally looking healthier. You might be settling down, thinking about a first home, maybe even starting a family. Lots going on.
It really is a decade defined by, well, complexity.
Mm.
Everything seems to multiply. You're trying to balance this, higher income potential with way more responsibilities
Mm.
and figuring out how to enjoy that money because there are new costs too, while also thinking about retirement,
Mm.
which, let's be honest, still feels pretty far off.
It does. But that tension, it can be, well, pretty dangerous if you don't manage it right.
Yeah.
Our source material today really digs into this decade, and honestly, it starts with a bit of a jolt. It asks us a really provocative question. Even with all this growth, could you, apparently, a worrying number of people in their 30s actually be heading for financial trouble, maybe even bankruptcy?
Yeah, that sounds pretty stark, I know.
Mm-hmm.
But the context is key here. The analysis we looked at suggests it's often not about outright poverty. It's more this tricky mix of maybe new high mortgage debt combined with unexpected family costs, like childcare. That's a big one.
Right.
And it catches people out if they haven't set up the right financial buffers. One surprise event, and things can get shaky fast.
Okay, so that sets up our mission for this deep dive perfectly. We're basically giving you the shortcut. We've pulled out the 5 most common and arguably highest impact financial mistakes people make in this decade, so you can get informed quickly, check your own setup, and hopefully avoid falling into those traps.
Exactly. These aren't just theories. They're like concrete things you can look at to shore up your finances as things get busier.
Okay, let's unpack this. Mistake number 1, we're calling it. Ignoring the complexity multiplier. Or, put simply, finding yourself without a real financial plan. Which sounds basic, I know.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, in your 30s, that financial web you're weaving, it gets complicated really fast.
It's that classic difference, isn't it? Reactive versus proactive finance. Before you really stop to think, you suddenly have all these moving parts.
Why?
Well, a new house payment. Maybe there are 2 cars now. Student loans that are still hanging around.
Still there? Yeah.
And then maybe the cost of raising kids hits you. Which, wow, that can be a shock to the system. All these unexpected costs. They need serious management. Cash flow management.
And if you don't have that plan, our sources show a pretty clear pattern. Life throws you a curveball. Something unexpected happens and you just react.
Right.
You start dipping into savings that were meant for something else, long-term goals maybe, or even worse, you end up borrowing more just to stay afloat. And that just exposes your whole family to, well, unnecessary risk. You really have to grab the reins now to shift those default spending habits.
And what a proper plan gives you is clarity, which is, frankly, a pretty scarce resource in your 30s.
Huh.
It's not just about saying no to spending. It's really a tool to help you prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
It lets you look ahead maybe 5, 10 years and think about those big costs coming down the line. College, maybe your bigger home, taking time off work.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps you actually set aside specific money for investments, for savings,
Sure.
maybe even ways to generate a bit extra income, instead of just hoping there's something left at the end of the month.
So the plan is the map. But, okay, it doesn't automatically stop temptation, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Which brings us nicely to mistake number 2, letting lifestyle creep get ahead of investment. Or, just spending beyond your means. Because when your salary finally starts to climb, it feels good. You feel like you can finally splash out a bit.
Oh yeah, that's the slippery slope of spending what you're earning.
How?
It feels deserved.
Yeah.
You've worked hard, right? You feel like you deserve that amazing eco-retreat holiday you saw, or maybe that shiny new SUV. And you see your friends doing similar things, maybe posting it online, and suddenly that whole keeping up with the Joneses game, it becomes a real threat to your long-term financial health.
Yeah, that comparison trap is just lethal. It feeds the spending habit.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's like being on a treadmill you can't get off.
But the material we looked at offers a really important counter strategy here. It focuses on debt. You're earning more now than you did in your 20s. So shouldn't you be able to use some of that extra cash for fun?
You should, absolutely. But, and this is the key, this is actually the perfect time to be a little bit boring financially. Instead of just letting all that new cash flow go towards immediate wants, this is the best time to aggressively attack any lingering high-interest debt from your younger days.
You mean credit cards, personal loans.
Exactly. Those credit card balances may be running at 18, 19%, or those high-interest personal loans. Get rid of them.
Okay, let me push back slightly. Say, 6 months ago, I finally paid off my student loan, felt amazing. If I suddenly had an extra, I don't know, $10,000 from a raise, why shouldn't I treat myself? Why is paying off a 19% credit card more important than, say, a big family trip, making memories?
That's a fair question. Here's why. That 19% interest you're paying every single month, that's like a hidden tax eating away at your future wealth.
Hmm.
If you put that $10,000 towards paying off that debt, your return on investment is guaranteed. It's 19% savings, immediately tax-free. Show me another investment that guarantees that kind of return with zero risk. You can't. So the key takeaway here, and the sources really highlight this, is finding the right balance.
Okay.
You absolutely should save for the future, build wealth, but you also need to enjoy life now. But if that enjoyment is funded by rolling over high-interest debt month after month, you're basically stealing from your future self. You're trading future stability for today's pleasure.
Excellent point. Okay, so cash flow and debt are like the engine. Security, then, is the seatbelt. Because you could be earning a great income, but one disaster can just wreck everything.
Precisely.
Which leads us to mistake number 3, ignoring the really important insurances.
That's right. It's stuff nobody enjoys thinking about, is it? Sickness, accidents, death, even horrible things like a house fire or flood.
No.
But when you're in your 30s, the consequences of not thinking about it are suddenly much bigger. Because now you likely have assets, maybe dependents, people who rely on your income.
Yeah, the specifics in our material really hammer this home. The shift is key. Maybe when you're single, life insurance felt unnecessary. Okay. But if you have a family now, or anyone who depends on your income, could even be a business partner, you need that protection if something happens to you.
Life insurance, definitely. And disability insurance.
Ah, yes. Tell me more about that.
Disability insurance is, I think, the one that gets overlooked most often. People think about insuring against dying, but they often forget to insure their ability to earn an income. What if you have a serious illness or an accident that doesn't kill you, but stops you from working for months or even years? That loss of income, combined with those higher fixed costs we talked about, the mortgage, the bills that can be absolutely devastating financially, possibly even more than dying prematurely.
Wow. Okay. That's sobering. Now, here's something I found genuinely surprising. It was about home insurance. You know, we buy the policy, we get the mortgage, tick the box, job done, and then maybe we just forget about it for years.
Exactly. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's like administrative inertia sets in. So many people just keep their home insurance coverage at the exact same level it was on day one when they first signed the papers.
But life moves on.
Massively. Think about your life now compared to maybe when you first bought that place. You've accumulated so much more stuff, right?
Yeah, furniture, electronics, maybe expensive bikes or sports gear, jewelry.
The total value of everything inside that house has probably climbed significantly.
Just if the worst happens, a big fire, a major flood, they suddenly find they're massively underinsured.
Catastrophically underinsured, potentially, because they never updated the policy amount to reflect what they actually own now.
Their life moved on, but the policy just stayed stuck in the past.
It's like a hidden financial time bomb. So the advice is really clear. Periodically, maybe every couple of years or after a major purchase, review that policy. Check the insured amount for your contents. Does it match today's reality or the budget you had 8 years ago?
That point about blind spots, just not updating things, leads perfectly into mistake number 4, dipping in and out of your mortgage. This one gets really interesting because sometimes it feels like you're being financially savvy.
Ah, yes. The home equity ATM. It's a classic error, especially when property values have been rising.
Right.
You see that equity building up on paper. Your house is worth more, your mortgage balance is lower. Maybe you think, hey, I've got $100,000 in equity there. I'll just redraw $20,000.
For what? A new kitchen? Or...
Yeah, or maybe to consolidate that credit card debt we were just talking about. Pay off the high interest stuff with cheaper mortgage debt.
Okay, I can see the appeal there. If I can borrow against my house at, say, 5% to pay off credit cards, charging 19%, sounds like a smart move, doesn't it? Is the source material saying that's always bad?
Not always, but it comes with a really critical warning. You have to tread very, very carefully. Using home equity to refinance genuinely high-interest debt can save you money on interest in the short term. Okay.
But
The moment you start using that home equity for things that go down in value depreciating assets like a car, or maybe just funding lifestyle things like an overly fancy renovation that doesn't add value, then you are fundamentally eating into your long-term security. You're taking debt that maybe you would have paid off in 3 or 4 years.
like the credit card.
Exactly. and you're stretching it out over maybe 20 or 25 years baked into your mortgage.
Ah, okay. So you turn a short-term high-interest problem into a much longer-term lower-interest problem, but one that chips away at your home equity and keeps you in debt for decades longer.
Precisely. You're basically spending your savings, because that's what home equity is. It's forced savings, and swapping it for consumption today. The source material really warns against this habit of treating your home like a revolving line of credit. It just undermines that financial fortress you should be building in your 30s.
Which brings us kind of full circle, actually, back to security with mistake number 5. And this one feels absolutely vital given everything we've said about higher stakes in your 30s. Failing to put away enough money for emergencies.
Yeah, the need for that emergency safety net just grows massively as your fixed monthly costs increase. Think about it. When you were 22, maybe losing your job meant eating instant noodles for a month and moving back home. Annoying, but survivable.
Right.
Now, in your 30s, losing your job could mean missing mortgage payments, getting hit with late fees, potentially damaging your credit rating. It impacts the whole family's stability much more severely.
And the source material's pretty direct here. Having just a couple of $100 sitting in a savings account, that's just not going to cut it anymore.
Not even close.
So let's talk specifics. We often hear 6 months of expenses thrown around. That sounds huge, almost scary. Doesn't that just put people off even starting? Is there a better first step?
It is a big goal, no doubt. But the need really is proportional to your responsibilities, your liabilities. The recommended target, ultimately, yes, is aiming for about 6 months' worth of essential living expenses.
Okay.
Now, as a stepping stone, a more manageable first target. The material suggests focusing first on covering maybe 3 months, but just of your absolute fixed costs.
Meaning
Things like your mortgage or rent, essential utilities, non-negotiable insurance premiums, basic food costs, just the absolute must-pays. Get that 3-month buffer first.
And crucially, that fund absolutely must include your mortgage payment, right? Which for most people in their 30s is their biggest single monthly outgoing.
Absolutely critical. Have to cover the mortgage, and just as important as the amount is where you keep it.
Okay.
This emergency money needs to be safe, obviously.
Yeah.
And liquid, meaning you can get to it easily when you need it. But it also needs to be somewhere you won't be tempted to dip into for everyday stuff, for wants rather than needs.
So not just mixed in with your regular checking account.
Preferably not. Maybe a separate high-yield savings account that's earmarked only for emergencies. Think of it as the ultimate firewall. It protects you when that complexity multiplier throws a real crisis your way. The roof starts leaking, a major job loss, a big unexpected medical bill, not for the latest phone.
Right, it's your defense fund. Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening? Your 30s, look, they're undeniably an amazing time. So much growth, income potential, possibilities opening up. It's exciting. But that financial structure you're building, it can be fragile if you ignore these key areas. Avoiding these 5 pitfalls, we dove into getting that proactive plan, really tackling high-interest consumer debt, making sure you have the right insurance, protecting your home equity, and building up that solid emergency fund, aiming for 6 months. That's the roadmap. It's how you take charge.
And the good news is, by tackling these common mistakes now, while you likely still have a good couple of decades before retirement really looms large, you maximize the benefit of these peak earning years. You give yourself plenty of time, plenty of runway to hit your big financial goals, even as life gets more complex and demanding.
Thank you for joining us for this, well, I think really essential deep dive into securing your finances during what might be your most important earning decade.
And maybe just one final thought to leave you with, something to chew on. Reflect, maybe even tonight, on your current insurance policies. Your home insurance, life insurance, disability insurance. When was the last time you actually reviewed them and adjusted the coverage amounts? Do they reflect the real value of your assets today, the actual cost of your life now, the dependents you have right now? Or are they based on who you were 5, maybe 10 years ago? Probably the highest leverage financial checkup you can do this week. Most people just don't realize how exposed they might be until it's way too late.